How are you, sir?
What's up, Hal?
Just your overall impressions of your group and what you've seen through 8 practices so far this spring.
I love the way they're trying to play together. We talk about playing when we're on the field 5 as 1, seeing the same things through the same set of eyes, communicating. They're playing together. It's breeding off the field. They hang together. I think they're a tight-knit group. They're trying to play physical. We define what that looks like in our room, and they're trying to do it. We have different metrics, how we measure it, and they're competing to do it. And so that part, I've been loving every minute of it.
Hey, Lonnie, first time getting a chance to meet you, Mike, with Gamecock Central.
Good to meet you, Mike.
Building a relationship with an offensive coordinator, how has that dynamic been so far with Al Loggins? We've heard, obviously, from Shane Beamer, but just from you personally. D-Lo is the man, first of all. One thing about D-Lo is he is offensive line friendly. So when he's building offense, we're building offense, he's going to think about the big guys up front. He's going to think about the quarterback and the big guys up front because it starts with people. So if he knows if we can get the quarterback and O-line going the right way and doing the right things, we'll be successful. So he always, whatever we're doing, he's got us in mind. And a lot of things we do together. But even if it's not something we did together, he's going to be like, hey, how's the O-line going to handle this? So he's been great, and that's all you can ask for is, a coordinator who's O-line friendly for us.
Hey, Lonnie, as far as this group and this offensive line, I know you're probably still figuring out rotations and it's a long way off from the actual season, but in terms of replacing a couple starters, you've obviously got guys that have, in theory, played a lot of snaps that may be filling those roles. I guess from the overall line as a group, how do you kind of go? I mean, how much does that help that you may be replacing some starters, but a lot of those guys that may be filling those roles have played a ton of snaps and are pretty experienced older guys? Definitely.
And we lost 5 guys, and 3 of them played a lot. The other 2, even though they didn't play, they were big parts of the room, so we lost a lot. The guys we got, that played a lot, Vershawn and Jakai and Jalen and Trey played a lot last year and Tashawn, it's been good because they have SEC experience. They know what that game is like. They know what it's like in the trenches on game day. And the other thing has been good is I got guys like Jakai. Jakai can play 4 different positions. Trey can play both guards. Vershawn can play all 3. Even though Nick hasn't been in the SEC, he's played a lot of football. Nick can really play all 5 if you needed him to. So you got, and then Jalen. And Jalen can play both tackle spots. He can play guard if we needed him to. So you got guys who can do a lot. Position flex is big, especially in the spring. So we can find the right 5. So having those guys with experience and experience at different positions has been huge for us.
Nick's been a guy who's got a couple of players that said that stood out so far. What have you seen from him through the first couple of spring practices?
Nick, it plays extremely hard. And I think in every room, like every O-line room, you need that, I call him the rabbit, you need the guy who sets the effort barometer, I guess that's the right word, the temperature for the effort. And he does that. And now, last year it might have been Javon, or some weeks it might have been Eric, because we like I said, we got different things we measure it with. And Nick's been great, man. He plays so hard. And when guys are playing that hard, it rubs off on the guys next to you. So then the next guy, he wants to play hard. So Nick's just brought an edge the way how hard he plays and practices day in and day out.
Lonnie, hope you're well. I guess you say you measure things differently. What are the things that you measure, and how do you go about measuring those, whether that's through the catapult system or stuff you're watching on film?
I'm not smart enough to use the catapult system. No, I'm joking. Luke gives us those, but it's just typical O-line stuff, man. We want to play nasty, so I ain't gonna give you all the sauce, but we got different things we call them, like dogs, and can't tell you too much. We might not make it out this room, but pancakes, knockdowns, and some of it's just effort plays. Like when we see great effort, we track them, and it's a competition. So it's just who at the end of the week we want to see who's competing, who's playing the hardest. So that's sort of some of the stuff without giving you everything.
After a couple years of recruiting Marquis, now you have a couple weeks of coaching him. What's that been like? And he's a guy that I guess Coach Beamer's mentioned a couple times with us these last couple times he's been in.
Yeah, Marquis is a pleasure to coach. extremely smart. He's one of those guys, when you teach him something, he's got it. And so he can recall information back that I taught him when he first got here. Hey, Marquis, you remember I taught you that? And he's got it. So just a smart dude, and he's hungry. He wants to be really good. Physically, he's heavy-handed. He's an SEC lineman. But just the first thing that stood out, how smart he was.
Lonnie, having been here the last couple of years, how has this transition for you been different in comparison to some of your other stops when you've been coaching college?
Ooh. So, Mike, I did my background on you. You're a small school guy. So, I'm a small school guy. That's most of my jobs. And the recruiting is none like any other I've ever worked at. It's just all the time, and it's very competitive. So, I guess that's the biggest difference. Football is football. It's just the recruiting is different, and it's just because it's how competitive it is, and it's nonstop. Which is, no, you're not saying nonstop, like in a good way. Like, I enjoy having these young men on campus. Like, I want the best offensive lineman on campus here every day. So I love it, you know what I mean? But it's just when you're at those smaller schools, like, you didn't have a recruit on campus, a big-time recruit on campus every day. You didn't have one of the top linemen on campus every day. Here, like, I want that, and that's what we've been doing, and I want to keep it like that. But that's the biggest difference. It's just the recruiting. Football's football.
Lonnie, you mentioned some of the things that makes Marquis so good and capable right now, but for a guy like that as a freshman and as early as in his career as he is, to be able to make at least an impact and at least do some things at a position that, I mean, generally speaking, it takes a little bit of time to get used to and get ready to play at the SEC level. I mean, I guess, how's he been able to do that? What is it about him that's made him be able to do that? And I guess maybe putting in context, like, how actually difficult is it for a guy like that to step in and be productive right away as a freshman, especially along the line?
Yeah. It is really hard for a freshman to play in this conference. And hopefully, I don't know, I'm not, predicting the future. Marquis, if he keeps trending, we'll see. But it's one, you have to be smart. Like, you got to be able to understand the playbook, because that's usually what stops freshmen year one. Like, they're talented, and like everybody's like, oh, we got these super talented freshmen, but their athletic ability is not shown on the field because they're not processing the plays fast enough. So when you get a guy who can process it fast enough, you'll see their athletic ability start to show faster. So that's been one of the things that's been helping him show his athletic ability faster, even though he's still got some things he's got to, keep growing and working on, but he can process fast, and then he can show his athletic ability.
Lonnie, I liked your answer, but I probably worded it poorly. What I meant was the transition from from an analyst to now being here, like, being able to build relationships with some of the players, having been here already in comparison to going from one school and now you're new. How is it different being an offensive line coach, but you've already been here, over the last year?
Gotcha. That part has been, I don't want to say easy, but even in the analyst role, I pride myself on having a good relationship with my guys, and then all the guys in the building, but especially that unit. So I feel like I had great relationships with all of them. So that part's been easy. I got good relationships with them. It's I don't treat them any different. When I was in within what I could do as an analyst. Definitely there's things I can do now that I couldn't do, but it's all relationship driven. So, I had good relationships with all of them.
Lonnie, this offensive line recruiting class on paper in the 23 group, it was excites a lot of people fan base wise. What do you like about this group collectively as a whole, outside of obviously Marquis and some of the guys you're going to be able to bring on campus this summer to start working with you guys?
Collectively, I think they're all large humans, which is a good thing in this conference. They all are really good athletes, and I think they're hungry. So like that, I think that's something they all have in common. Because you got to be hungry. Like, you can't get complacent. Once you sign to a SEC school, you still got to be very driven. And I've seen that already. With some of them. Even though they're not here, how driven they are to be a good offensive linemen in this conference.
Whenever we've been out there, it seems like Vershawn's been the first guy or first group at center. How have you seen him take to that position and filling in for obviously a veteran guy in Eric? And I guess Nick is probably the next guy in line, and maybe some of the other younger guys like Brubaker and Maines. What can you kind of give a synopsis of that center
so we got, like, I'll say with the first group, I've probably been rotating 6 guys. And whether it be Vershawn or Nick at center, they're getting the first team reps at center. Vershawn's done a great job, because he hasn't played center. We will play him some in practice. I think he might have got like maybe 3 snaps in the game last year or something at center, but he never was the full-time guy. The reason I thought he could do it is because he's a fast processor. And one thing about center, you got to process fast and get the calls out for everybody. And he's been doing a great job, so has Nick. So that's been, it's sorting itself out as far as, who's going to be the center. But he's done a great job. When I put Nick in there, he's done a great job as well. But I've been really just rolling 6 guys and moving guys around. So, the 6 is Jalen, Trey, Nick, Tyshawn, and Jakai. And I've just been moving those guys around in different pieces and seeing who can play where and get our best 5 out there.
Lonnie, you mentioned Dow Loggins being an offensive line kind of friendly coach. When you talk about an offense that's friendly to offensive linemen, what does that look like, for lack of a better term, for someone that might not understand football as well as maybe you guys do? What does that look like from an offensive friendly standpoint?
Yeah, so up front, our picture changes a lot, meaning we get like pre-snap, post-snap, those D linemen are moving, the linebackers are moving, so we got to handle a lot of different looks. So what'll help us with handling all the looks is keeping the concepts the same but dressing everybody else up. So that's the biggest thing. Like when you think about O-line friendly, like let us do what we do, and then you guys on the outside, y'all dress it up.
Lonnie, you talked a little bit about the recruiting side of it, but I know you can't talk about the 24 guys, but the 23 guys, the 22 guys, the guys that you brought in over the last couple of years and will bring in, next year, I guess. What is it about, whether it's you and Greg and the rest of y'all's staff on this, like recruiting those linemen, what is it that you guys have been able to do to kind of get guys here and bought in? And I guess what is it that has been able to bring some of those really, high caliber guys here?
I would say it starts with Coach Beamer, because you talk to everyone, whether it's the recruit or the parent, they're like, wow, this is really different. You guys are down to earth, real people. It feels like a family. And I think it always starts with Coach Beamer, because he's so approachable. He can talk, he'll sit and talk with anyone, where you go some places, and you kiss in the ring. Whereas you come here, Coach Beamer, he talking to you. And so when Coach Beamer's like that, it trickles down to everybody. And then we got a good recruiting staff with Taylor and all his guys. And, I got, it's me, Greg, Buffalo and Roger, and then I got Sam. Like I call him, like we got a whole little army, we just try to build relationships, and that's really just getting to know them, getting to know what makes them tick, getting to know their family, getting to know mom and dad, sisters, whoever we can get to know, whoever's close to them, we want to know about them and get to know them, just build real relationships.
I was going to ask you about that kind of army y'all got of guys and gals who recruit offensive linemen. Is it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot about on campus, like Jess and her crew. So it's a lot of people, but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I just forgot about Jess and her army.
I was just going to ask how nice that is as a guy who's the coach of the group, and you got all those other people to work with and help you out, and I guess probably make your job a little bit easier that way. Definitely,
and they all do a great job. Whether, because Sam is like he's with O-line, like that's my guy. Like he's filling me in every morning on what's going on, and I tell him, Sam, I got to coach some football at some point. So he does a great job of just keeping me abreast of everything, from Taylor and on to Sam and what's going on.
I know you can't talk about the guys specifically, but how pleased are you with the start you guys have had in this 2024 class and the potential to make this a top 10, potentially top 5 class, especially on the offensive line?
Yeah, it's been great. I love the energy behind the class and, what's, on paper so far. We want to recruit like that this year and every year going forward. So let's keep it rolling. All right. Thank you, guys.